Hello, everybody. We're going to give it a minute till we get started, but we are super excited that you're here to join us. A lot of us that you can see their cameras on are our Columbus crew and a lovely Bethany's from Cleveland, but we'll kind of get into who everybody is and we'll just give it maybe another 30 seconds. Amazing. As we get ready to get started today, any questions you have, please put them in the chat. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end, as well as this will be recorded and distributed to anyone who's attending, or if you'd like to watch later. We're so excited you're here, and let's kind of get started to navigating the exam and elevating the profession. So we want to say a big thank you to our benefactors. Without them, we couldn't do what we do and have the resources that we have. So if you'd like to be a benefactor, please see our website for how you can possibly do that. We'd love to have you for any donations. And then again, this year we have a new sponsorship, which is our Design Advocate sponsors. So if you're interested in sponsoring, we'd be thrilled to have your support. A little shout out to our first four. We're hoping to continue to grow these sponsors.
And today we have joining us Samantha Bonner. She is our president of IIDA. And we have Bethany Williams. She is the co-director up in Cleveland. Michelle Burmeister and myself, Maria Carpenter. We are both on the team advocacy for here in Columbus. Bethany, do you want to start us off?
Gladly.
Can we real quick, sorry, there will be interactive polls. So if you guys have your cell phones or your computers, let's really quick just get a gauge on where you guys are all kind of at within the exams. So your first question is, what exam are you registered for? So are you just doing the IDFX, the PX, PRAC combo? You guys could real quick kind of let us know where you're at with that. And then in addition, the second question you will also have is, what exams do you have left? Are you partway through? Or are you just getting started? Or there's a combo. So we'll kind of give it a minute. I think most of us have all passed, so we're really excited to be talking about this today. I know it took me a couple attempts to get it fully complete, but I did it in 2018. So I'm hopeful that you all will be very interested and want to proceed with this journey. So let's kind of end the poll. Okay, so we're sharing the results and it kind of looks like a lot of you guys are kind of getting started, or a lot of you are getting started. Most of them have not been complete. And then what do you have left? A lot of you seem like you have combo or all of them. So this is exciting. We'll get you guys fully equipped today. So Bethany, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, that was a really great starting point for us. I think this is maybe going to blow some of your minds, but that's okay. We're here to help you. So don't let this be alarming, scary, shocking by any means. I'm going to fly through some really quick information about NCIDQ. This presentation alone could take an hour, but we're going to keep this portion to 10 minutes because we've got lots of other great information to share with you. If you have follow-up questions afterwards, you can always shoot them in the chat, but my email was in this presentation and I think it shows up at the end. Again, please feel free to reach out. I'm an ambassador for NCIDQ. The reason I kind of joined to be an ambassador is because when I went through this journey and tried to figure out the testing and when do I take it and what should I do, I felt like I was on an island. So I kind of wanted to give back to the community and help other people through this journey, because sometimes you just need a friend to talk you through some things. So feel free to reach out to me, but just some quick information. NCIDQ stands for the National Council for Interior Design Qualification. This is the only testing that truly tests interior designers on our education, experience, and the health, safety, and welfare of the public. So there's a lot of tests out there like LEED and WELL, and obviously the architects can go through their registration process as well. But this test is truly identified for interior designers. So when you become NCIDQ certified, it does create a little bit of a differentiator between you and your peers, and even individuals that could be in the residential market as well. Putting that NCIDQ after your name really helps stand out. The other thing that's kind of nice to know about this is the NCIDQ is recognized by other jurisdictions. So we're going to talk about legislation and where this is impactful for you. But if, say, you're working in the Ohio or Kentucky market today and life takes you on a journey somewhere else in the United States, your NCIDQ certification travels with you, which is really helpful. You don't need to go take another test when you get to another state, except for California. So. And then there's definitely a potential for an increase in salary. Everyone's different, every market's different, but it is something that employers look for. I know we're currently looking to hire and we look for that. And it's something you can absolutely leverage after you pass your certification. So next slide, we're going to jump into kind of some of the exam information itself. We're going to talk about how to apply. If some of you have already applied, that's great, but some of you may still be looking at that. Some of the important dates, deadlines, scoring the exam, and the certification itself. So let's jump in. Exam basics. There are 3 portions to this exam: the IDFX, the IDPX, and the practicum. Each of these you register for and take at an individual basis. You can take them all at the same time. You can take them separately. We're going to kind of talk about that later. But the first portion, the first test, is IDFX. This is testing you on the fundamentals. That's what the F stands for, and FX. A lot of those basic interior design knowledge that you're learning in school. This test is actually available for you to take while you're in school or even freshly out of school. You don't have to have the work experience to take it. But there's 125 questions with that. It's about a 3-hour test, all multiple choice. The IDPX is the next multiple choice test, and that is more on the professionalism of of interior design. So it's filtering in still some of those things in subject matter in the IDFX, but we're adding an extra layer of contracts and understanding a little bit more of like the construction process and things like that. So it's kind of adding in an additional layer from those fundamentals that you're learning at your college level. And those are all multiple choice. There's 175 questions for those, and that test takes a little bit longer. It's about 4 hours. And then the last portion of the test is the practicum. This one, it will have 3 case studies, a small commercial, large commercial, and a multifamily residential project. And within each of those case studies, there's a set of questions that apply to that. So the case study will give you like a floor plan, a reflected ceiling plan, some additional construction document information, and you're going to answer all of these questions based on that project that they're providing you. This test is formatted a little bit different. There is hotspot where you will sort of click on maybe a floor plan or a millwork section detail to answer the question. There's drag and place where you're going to take items that are pre-filled in for you at the moment and drag them into the question to answer the question, and then fill in the blank, which is pretty standard. So there's a total number of 114 questions with those. Again, they're sort of broken up into those 3 case studies evenly, and that test takes 4 hours long. All right, next slide. So if you're ready to apply and trying to figure out what is your path on how to start this process, there's a couple of different ways. All of this information, I'll say too, is on CIDQ's website. So please feel free to like hop over there and dive in deeper. We're just kind of giving you a little bit of a snippet today to get to introduce it. But you can, as either an interior designer or an architect, take the NCIDQ exam. So since probably I would say, I'm guessing 99% of us are interior designers, we'll kind of look over on the left-hand side here. So it depends on first what your college education provides you, whether it's a bachelor's, master's degree, either in another major with an interior design certificate, or if you have an associate's degree certificate or diploma. And then from there, you can kind of follow your pipeline down to figure out exactly what you need to do from there. So baseline 1 is your education portion and figuring that out. Then after that, we filter in the amount of experience that's needed. So it is required to have, it kind of rounds out to about 2 years full-time, 40 hours a week working, that you need to have under your belt before you can take all 3 portions of the exam. And we'll kind of talk about too, like what you can take before you have your work experience versus after. And it's a little, just so you can kind of see across the board, it's just a little different depending on what your education background is and how, and then that equates to what sort of experience you need to achieve. The newest sort of newer requirement, this was implemented maybe a year ago, or maybe just this year it kind of launched. But previously you could just sort of work and no one really questioned exactly like what you were doing for your work experience. Now CIDQ is requiring you to complete a certain amount of hours in these different phases of the project that you can see here, from programming to contract administration to design development. All of these hours, they don't add up to the total amount of hours you need. The total amount of hours you need is way beyond this. But what CIDQ is just looking to make sure is that you're truly getting some experience in each of these categories, because you will be tested on each of these categories. And I think when we get to our Q&A section, you'll see I had some personal issues with this in my experience. So I do think this was a really smart move on their part, just making sure that you're prepared from a work experience standpoint. All right. So we're getting to apply. If you are in school, just completed school, haven't completed your 2 years-ish of experience, you could take the IDFX, which is great. While that knowledge is fresh in your noggin, I do highly suggest go ahead and take that exam and get it out of the way. So all that's required for that is your transcript for school, and then you'll pay an application and submit. Once you're done with that exam and you're ready to take the last 2 parts of the exam, you'll go through kind of a second application process, where you will again get like your school's transcripts. You will then have your verified work experience, and you'll pay a second application and submit. If you're sort of beyond this point, you have your education, you have your 2 years of experience, you're ready to apply for all 3. You'll kind of do like a combo of all those. You'll get your transcript from your schooling, your work verification, and then pay an application and fee. So the next slide kind of breaks it down a little bit too, price-wise, and shows you some of the differences. If you take the IDFX first, pay that application fee, and then go to apply for the next 2 tests, they're not like getting more money out of you. It all adds up to the same thing, but it's just broken up into kind of 2 different things. So on the left-hand side, it shows the exam testing periods and when you need to apply. So in general, the exams are offered through the whole month of April and the whole month of October. So at this point, you can kind of estimate if you're looking to maybe test in the spring, which would be the whole month of April. Right now, applications are being accepted from August through January 31st. And then once your application is accepted and approved, then you can schedule your testing. And that's sort of for that 3-month period before the testing period, which for the spring test is January through March. If you're looking to take the test this fall, the scheduling has already opened, fun fact, and you have until the end of September to schedule those tests. But your application does need to sort of be fully completed, fully approved before you can do that. So if you haven't applied yet, you're too late for the fall exam, no big deal. So you can start working on that process now and studying for the spring test. Each of the exam fees are broken down on the right-hand side that you can see depending on which one you're applying for, and also the application fee and how that all tallies up. So at CIDQ and as ambassadors, we're technically not allowed to say, this is how you should study and this is what you should do. There are some great resources on their website where they break down the content of each of the exams, and you can sort of see the what percentage are we talking about programming and what percentage are we talking about contract administration and those types of things. So I highly recommend hop over to their website and take a look at that. The exam pass rates here, they are a little on the scary side, I will say, but I do try to look at this with glass half full instead of half empty. It is a tough test. I think you'll hear from some of us later on that some of us have failed portions of the test, but I do think that really speaks to the credibility of the exam. And again, that differentiator between yourself as a hopefully soon to be certified interior designer compared to someone who is not. So it's not an easy test, but it is truly testing you and your abilities. So, okay, NCIDQ ambassador hat off. This is my personal hat. So Q practice is a really great way to study. We do, as IIDA Ohio Kentucky, offer Q practice study groups where you can register, get a discounted fee for that and have I think it's 3 or 4 months worth of studying. It's an online platform, and the individual who runs that updates it after every test, which I think is great. It's not like a one-time thing that is created and hopefully it's up to date, but she does it after every testing period. There's lots of there's a breakdown of a study schedule if you're that type of person and like, please tell me what I need to read this week and what I need to study this week. I know I personally benefited from that. There's lots of practice tests and practice exams, so that's a really great tool to look at. The other tool that's really great are these books that are listed here, the David Ballas books. They are tried and true. I don't know that there's any other books out here that have ever competed with these, but they're fantastic materials. So the blue one is sort of like the all encompass Bible of everything that you need to study for the exam. And then there's different practice question books that you can buy. And those are the three that you see on the right-hand side. I'm sure there's other study tools out there in different things, different groups, but these are sort of the two tried and true that have risen to the top and have been successful for people in the past. So like I said, that's a very, very, very quick breakdown of NCIDQ in the exam. Happy to answer any additional questions after this. And CIDQ.org is a wealth of information. You can spend hours on that website. So
Thank you, Bethany. So we're going to start sort of chat, our little fireside chat that we're not actually in front of a fire. And we're gonna dig into some questions that we have for our panelists. These are pre-loaded questions. So Bethany, you haven't talked enough, but what motivated you to pursue NCIDQ? I can tell you're very, very passionate about it.
just a touch, just a touch. No, I kind of honestly, I saw this as like the last step in my career journey, getting my education and the work experience, but this was kind of like a non-negotiable thing for me. So I did get a little FOMO too at my first place that I worked. The designers that had a little bit more experience, they were taking their tests and passing them and excited about that. So that was sort of also a push for me. But I think I love that it is something that can kind of differentiate us from your average residential designer or someone who is not really working in the commercial world, or the ability to even talk to our clients about it. It's really been a great asset and something that qualifies and sort of sets us apart to say, hey, take me seriously. I do know what I'm doing. I have education, I have experience, and I've been tested on it. So
Love that. So Sammy, question for you. How did you take the exams? Did you approach all of them at once? Did you space them out?
Yeah, I actually spaced them out. So I did a fall situation. So I took my IDFX in the fall of 2023, and then my PX spring of 2024, and then finally the practicum in fall of 2024. I think.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I think for me, it helped break up the studying a little bit. Just in terms of, a lot of us work day jobs full time, right? And so then studying for an exam on top of working your day job, or in the case of the four of us, volunteering for IIDA in our free time. It's just a lot to balance. Occasionally for me when I was prepping, I think in hindsight now, I probably could have and would have scheduled both of the IDFX and PX in the same testing session. Maybe I would have spaced them apart. I don't know that I would have taken them like truly back to back, but I think there was definitely more ability to be flexible with that schedule than the rigorous one per session that I set for myself.
That makes sense. Bethany, you took all of them at once, didn't you?
no, I ended up, I overlapped, I think, the PX and the practicum. I wanted to sort of like get one under my belt. So I did the FX first. I wanted to feel good about it. And then as I was studying, I realized there's quite a bit of crossover between all three, but I thought if I'm investing my time in studying for the PX, let's go ahead and knock out the practicum at the same time. So I did those two together.
Okay. So for either or both of you, would you have changed the timing in which that you all or the order that you guys took the sections? I know, Sammy, you said that you would take two together, but
Mhm.
would
I
you
probably
change the
would have
order?
grouped, yeah, I probably would have grouped the multiple choice together, because I do feel like there was quite a bit of overlap of material from the FX on the PX. But I don't know that I would have truly condensed the schedule too much more, just because um, I think when you got into more of the PX content about, the contracts and sort of the professional practice of interior design, that's actually probably the least amount of experience that I have being, 6, 7 years into my career. So it took more to study for that one than for the ethics personally. But I think I probably could have balanced both had I kind of similar to Bethany wanted to get one under my belt to feel good about, what I was doing to study. So hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think everyone's different. I was crazy and decided to take all three at the same time. Don't recommend that. I don't.
It looks
So
like I was gonna say it looks like Rita too in the chat took hers all at once.
yeah,
So, people
Okay,
do it.
so I'm old. It was mandatory to take all three parts when you wanted to take it. And if you took one part, it was because you already took all three. But I would say mm, for me, it felt right to take all three parts at the same time because you're going to create a lot of stress and drama, period. And if you've been taking the preparatory classes, sometimes those classes are over one weekend. It's really fresh, right? So if you took all the preparatory stuff, 1 month prior, all portions of the exam are really, really fresh. I took mine 20 some odd years ago, and I think I did a September preparatory workshop weekend. September. It was not offered locally that year, so I think I had to go to Boston for it. And then, of course, I took the exam in October. So you have to kind of weigh money, time, stress, and kind of gauge what works well for you. You know, if you have a firm that supports you financially to take these exams, that plays into it too. If you're paying for everything yourself, which could be you paying for a lot of your exam prep and books and workshops yourself, you have to, you may have to weigh that. It's a very important decision. Just because I threw myself off the deep end certainly does not mean I'm telling anybody else to do that.
thank you, Rita. So Bethany, what point in time do you, like in your career, do you think that it's ideal to take the exams?
This is kind of a loaded question. And here's like the things to weigh. One, like weigh your personal life. Like some people fresh out of school don't have as many responsibilities and have some extra time to study. And sometimes that makes sense for someone, or sometimes it doesn't. I would also say too, just because you've worked 2 years in the industry doesn't mean that you're ready to take the exam. I personally felt that. I worked somewhere that wasn't an architecture firm. And so after 2 years, I was like, cool, I'm ready. I've got my experience, but really I was not quite ready. So really weigh that into your decision making. And I think that's even more helpful now that they've sort of required you have experience in these different areas of a project, just to make sure that you feel ready. Now, granted, like when you go to apply for the exam, are you ready to walk in that day and pass it? No, you're absolutely going to study. You're going to spend some time. So, don't sell yourself short by any means or be scared of it. Sometimes you just need to apply to get the ball rolling because you do have 5 years from the time that your application is accepted until you finish your last exam. So it's kind of a multi-loaded point there, though, to kind of consider all those.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Sammy,
Mhm.
you are the most recent of us to take and pass the exam. What study materials or resources did you lean on while you were going through this process?
Yeah, I did participate in our Q practice session that Bethany mentioned earlier. And I think that was a great way, again, as she mentioned, to really break down your study schedule. Uh, I didn't follow it as rigorously as I probably should because a little bit of my brain hops around things, right? But even having some kind of framework was helpful to set myself up for success long term. But I think, funny enough, for me personally, flashcards that came with the study manuals were the best for me. That's not going to be the case for everybody, but a lot of repetition, I think, is very beneficial for my brain personally. But it totally depends on how you learn and how you study. I know people that have read the manuals cover to cover, and that was the best way for them to soak in information. I know people that absolutely loved the rigorous schedule of the Q practice. So it all depends on your personal study approach. And something that Bethany said earlier that I agree with is I think when you're first out of school, you are even a little bit more used to taking exams than you are, 5, 6, etc. years post higher education. So I think for me, it was helpful that I took the well AP exam within that time frame, so I wasn't totally removed from the study and exam process. But I think it's totally dependent on your personal study habits and how your brain works.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
So, you were very active in IIDA and working full time. So what realistically did your study schedule look like?
Yeah, that's a great, it's a great question. It's not easy to pinpoint. I spent, 2 hours every day for 4 weeks studying. It was a little bit more, okay, I know I have a 45-minute window here that I can pack in on a Tuesday night. And then, Thursday, maybe I have a bigger chunk of time that's 2 hours. But I definitely tried to space out, especially at the beginning, being really diligent about, okay, I know I have an hour chunk here and trying to at least sprinkle it in. And then I'm unfortunately a chronic study procrastinator. So I had little sprinkles. And then the last, 10 days was very intensive. Like, no, I'm not doing that tonight. I have to spend my 2 hours studying every single night. So it definitely ebbed and flowed. I'm not saying that I was very like, I'm following this ladder so specifically, but again, it's one of those things I think that just depends on how your life works out and how your brain processes information and retains it.
That is such a good point. And so we're gonna have another poll question before we continue on to just kind of gauge you all. I think that's a great opener. How do you guys like to study? Personally, I'm a hands-on learner. I think I got my start playing The Sims and like knowing how to place things and how to do it. But for me, it's been very helpful. And I think also if you know people within your community, if you can lean on them, asking them, hey, do you have any resources you're not using anymore because they passed? I think that's always a good starting point to have that conversation to, maybe have a buddy to help guide you. So it can't be so scary. So let's kind of share the revolt. It seems like a lot of you guys are visual, which makes a lot of sense, and hands-on learning. So thank you for sharing that with us. So Bethany, if you failed any of your exams, how did you go about getting a fresh mind and just continuing forward?
I did fail. I failed the practicum, and I failed it in this like right at the transition of the previous handwritten one, and then they switched it to the online digital one. So in my head, I was like, I gotta get this done. Like, I want to try and do this before they change the exam. In reality, I was not ready for it. So I did kind of like take a pause. I created like approached it from a different study method. I signed up for the Q practice, and I felt like that was very beneficial for me to like study it a little bit different. I scheduled every Sunday morning. I would study for about 2 hours. I tried to do my reading through the week and then kind of hit like the practice test really hard on that Sunday. So that really helped me kind of reset my mind. I also held myself more accountable. I didn't like tell anyone when I was taking my exam the first time because I was like, oh, if I fail, I don't want to let anyone know. And then I was like, that's ridiculous. So the second time I let people know, and it kind of held a little bit of accountability to myself as well. And I don't know, internally maybe tried a little harder because I was like, "Ah, I don't want to like embarrass myself now and go back to and tell people I failed."
Right, that's a good question. I know personally I did fail the fundamentals and the professional, but I think coming out of it, I was able to gauge like, this is the expectation and how can I, succeed the next time around. So it just makes you drive a little harder. So this next question is for both Sam and Beth. How has having the NCIDQ certification influenced your career or open new doors?
I can just start with, there's a couple things for me. So I'll put my IIDA hat on for a second, but part of being the president of our chapter here at IIDA is one of our bylaws that you be NCIDQ certified. So obviously that can ebb and flow as our seasons change for who's excited and passionate about being on the chapter board. But that was something that when I first joined, I was not, and I saw so many of the wonderful leaders and designers that were on the chapter board around me and at the city center committees as well, who had their NCIDQ certification, and it was a huge motivator to move forward. Like, I think in my time at IIDA, I saw like Hunter Miller, who's on here, Catherine Dunton, like so many of these people that I respected and loved collaborating with from a volunteer standpoint, take and pass their exams, that it was very motivating for me to do that as well. And I think professionally, it does have some of these benefits that Bethany mentioned. I think there is some sort of weird respect in when you've got some more letters in your email signature, right? Or even being able to educate some of our contractors or engineer friends about what NCIDQ is and why interior design is important, I think has been huge for being able to train me on how to share these skills and presenting to clients and other professional organizations. It's been super beneficial for me in that way.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, ditto to what you said. But I've also had some really great conversations directly with my clients, and have, what do these letters mean after your name? And so it's really great to sort of explain that and sell the quality of working with an architecture firm, right? I know we all kind of struggle with that, out in the world, and why should I pay someone for these services? But here is why. And so that's been really great, to have those conversations.
I totally agree. You guys are a great representation for the certification. And our last question for both of you, if you could tell someone just starting out one thing, what would it be?
Oh man. I think for me, a lot of my decision to take the NCIDQ was based on, I guess I probably just should, right? As opposed to, oh, I'm so passionate about it. And I think if I was just starting out, I would talk to more people that have taken the exam and are very passionate and vocal about the profession of interior design. I think that really inspired me to take the leap of faith and take my exams as opposed to it being just another box you check. So that's the biggest piece of advice. And even all of you being on this event is actually a huge step in the right direction, I think, for igniting that passion and excitement.
Yeah, I would say you can do it. You 100% can do it, but you have to put in the effort for it. It's not an easy journey, as you can see, even in this little cute dotted line. You will have ups and downs, and that is okay. But when you are done, it feels so damn good. So you can do it. And once you're all done, you're done for the rest of your life. It's great.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for answering those. We're going to move on next to talk about some education requirements.
Yeah, I can cover these really quickly. I think probably a lot of people in here know about the general, what is a CEU? So continuing education unit. We provide these at IIDA all the time. You'll get one for this session as well. But in general, these are requirements from both NCID or CIDQ and whatever local jurisdiction you're a part of. So that depends on if you have legislation, which Maria and Michelle will talk about later. But these are continuing education units that just help confirm that we're always staying on top of the most important and new information as part of our profession, and make sure that we're always learning and maintaining the important parts of what we've learned in the NCIDQ. So in general, for certificate holders in Ohio, we don't have any general CEU requirements. It's only HSW hours specific, which I'll then talk about next. But in the state of Kentucky, where there is interior design legislation, 12 credit hours of CEUs are required for NCIDQ certificate holders. So then what is HSW requirements? So these CEUs are considered more rigorous in terms of the contents they're covering. So this is specific to health, safety, and welfare for these credits. So these are embedded in building codes and then also tied into licensing requirements. So for certificate holders in the state of Ohio, 5 HSW specific CEU credits are required. And then for those of you that are certificate holders in Kentucky, 8 HSW credit hours are required. If you have any questions about those requirements, and if you're worried about something changing over time, right, because this is one little nugget in the timeline of legislation, CIDQ keeps that up to date on their website as well, per jurisdiction.
So, looking forward, we've heard, Bethany, there are some rumors about some changes that are happening to our NCIDQ exam. Do you want to tell us about them?
Yeah, rumors are true. There are some changes. So something that CIDQ does, which I think just again kind of speaks to the legitimacy of the exam, is every 5 years they send out a practice survey analysis to all of the certificate holders. I know I've participated in the survey in the past. And they ask a ton of questions about how the interior design profession is operating, and making sure that what they're testing on is applicable for where the industry is today. So the exam does change over time. That's not uncommon. And those blueprints that you can find on the website, pretty beautiful. Thank you. They break down exactly what each portion of the exam is going to test on. So that is a direct result of these practice analysis surveys. The bigger sort of change that's happening is the practicum is switching over to being called the IDIX, which is implementation exam. It's still sort of the same testing, if you will, but just a new name and sort of new format. And then the other thing that's really changing across the board is the IDFX and the IDPX will no longer be only multiple choice questions. They are also going to mix in the drag and place, fill in the blank, and hotspot questions that we previously saw in just the practicum. Now those four style of questions will be across all 3 exams. And there will not be specific case studies like in the previous practicum where there was the 3 case studies and then all of your questions apply to those. They'll sort of have like little vignettes where maybe 3 to 5 questions will apply to, here is this furniture plan. Here's a couple of different questions about that. Okay, now here is a reflected ceiling plan. Here's a couple of questions about that. And they'll sort of test you in that manner. So that's quite a big change from what we've seen in the past. The multiple choice has been the multiple choice for like a really long time. I know in my lifetime, I've seen the practicum change from a handwritten portion to digital. So now we're changing even a little bit more. So this is really important to know since a lot of you are starting out fresh in this journey, you're going to see this change over in 2026. So if you take any exams this fall, it will all be status quo and all that information is on the website. But 2026, everything will change. So, and it's okay to be like in the middle of this process. Like if you've already taken at least one portion of the exam and then things change after that, totally fine. But just heads up, new changes coming.
And this is even more of a plug-in for Q Practice because their practice test that they have on their website will actually help you with these formats of questions and trying those out. So this leads us into a little tiny teaser about, why does this matter? Why are we all really passionate about this? So Michelle and I are part of the advocacy subcommittee for here in Columbus. And what advocacy means is we're really advocating for our profession as a whole. And why we are so passionate about being licensed professionals that set us apart. So we are currently potentially going towards legislation here in Ohio. And so part of that is really fundraising. You can see these really awesome t-shirts on here, as well as a QR code that leads to our merch store. All of the proceeds in there does help fund our advocacy efforts. And just a little understanding of what does legislation mean, just from a high level. This is a map of our North America, and you can see Canada as well as the United States featured in here. We have a bunch of different words on here, meaning as far as the legislation is concerned, different colors that are associated with that. And you can see that all of our friends surrounding us are colored in. And that will really lead into something that Michelle's going to touch on.
Right. So we're getting a lot of momentum for the state of Ohio. Like Maria just mentioned, that our surrounding states have been passing over the past couple years. So we're hoping to keep building on that. And we hope that you guys are interested in this topic, as it's extremely important, and maybe you want to get involved. So we do have a upcoming town hall meeting. It's October 10th at lunchtime. We do not have any of the specific details to share with you, as like the location, some of those specifics, how to sign up, to make sure we give you all the information. So we will be posting about it. So please continue to stay engaged, and we will share more with you that soon. And so you guys have all been posting questions as we've been chatting. Now's a really good time. Does anyone have anything that they're thinking about, concerns, wins to share about your testing experience? We'd love to hear anyone who might want to chime in. Okay, we got a question from Janet. What about working with the interior design colleges to start taking these exams?
Yeah, so there certainly have been opportunities in the past where CIDQ has partnered with colleges, and then they actually offer the IDFX on campus. That's something I haven't personally been involved with, but would be a really great opportunity in our state to do that. So I don't know if any of the colleges in Ohio or Kentucky offer that at the moment.
Yeah, good question, Janet. Let us know if you had any other thoughts on that. Next question is from Heidi. Do the tests have to be taken in a specific order?
No, you can schedule them in any order you want. And even if you take all three in the same month, you can do the IDFX the first week, the PX the second week, and the practicum the third week. You can scramble that mixture. It's totally up to you and your preference.
Right. And I don't know that we fully touched on, but I think on our website, if your firm you're working at maybe doesn't provide reimbursement, there are opportunities through IDA to get reimbursement. So financially, we want to support you and to succeed. Another question from, oh, go ahead, Sammy.
I was going to say, I'll drop the link in the chat for the reimbursement as well from HK.
Perfect. Thank you. Sammy's doing a good job of putting some links in the chat regardless on how you can be a design advocate in our merch store as well. We had a question from Michelle. Did you find it more beneficial to start studying way ahead of time for the exams, or more like 1 to 2 months before?
That's a good question. I can say from my personal experience, I started studying maybe about like 4 months in advance, especially the first time to read through that David Ballas book. It's quite thick, and I wanted to really cover through everything. After I passed my first test, I just sort of went back and refreshed my memory and read through my notes and skimmed things again, which was more that like 2-ish months out. But that was me personally.
Right. I know when I did it, I forget if it was IDA or Q Practice. I want to say Q Practice had a really nice roadmap of the different tests. And based on how you like to learn and how much time you need, you can follow that and kind of break it out. I know for me, 12 weeks was the max, so 3 months. Anything shorter was maybe too not enough. And then anything beyond that, if I didn't know it, then I didn't know it. So depending on what you need, I think you can help navigate. But again, reach out with questions or someone you know who's passed or testing so you guys can kind of gauge what might work for you.
We
Janet,
also have, I was
go ahead.
just gonna say quickly, we also have a testing materials like Facebook group that you can swap. We haven't had a ton of traffic on it, but I think with the number of people that are in this chat, there's probably a good number of folks that need some study resources like the books and flashcards and things like that. So I'll grab a link to that as well and drop it in the chat.
Janet asked how much for these books. Again, I think it kind of depends if you can be scrappy and sustainable and find someone else who doesn't need them anymore and can recycle them to you, or if you're buying it used on Amazon or you want it fresh, maybe a fresh book, you need it to be fully blank so you can highlight it or mark it up. I think it just kind of depends to shop around. We have another question from Emma. Did anyone pass the fundamentals exam by studying independently without Q practice? Also, can you touch on the Q practice discounting info from a couple slides back?
I passed it without. I passed the FX and PX without it. I needed the prac for it because of the change of question type and the change in mentality instead of just multiple choice.
That's exactly what I did as well, Maria.
Yeah, I think these 3 exams are all different. I feel like the fundamentals is something you can go look up in a book if the question. The professional exams is a little more hypothetical, so you kind of got to use like what you think works best for the hypothetical question. And practicum, again, it feels like the drag and drop hotspot, those things. So Q practice is really helpful for, trying those things out.
And the thing that I found that was interesting, I don't know if you guys found it interesting for it. I remember it clear as day for the prac, they had in there an apartment and you had to put in all of the different finishes that you would put for the flooring. And the answers are like technical correct answers, but absolutely not anything that I would specify ever. So even having the prac or taking the prac with Q practice, that helped learn like, okay, this is how they're going to be asking those questions, even though this is not at all how we are actually doing this in real life.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because the way the questions are asked are not what is the answer? Maybe more like you would see in an academic standpoint, but more of a real life because, right, we could specify and space plan and change things. There's 100 different answers, but it's what's the best answer. So what I kind of found it beneficial getting my hands on some of those example questions and example testing types, just so you understood how they were going to quiz you, especially in 2026. Now they're going to change the format and add the drag and drop and all of that. They have videos on their website where you can see exactly what that interface looks like. It's not like you're using Revit or AutoCAD or things like that. It's all through their testing platform, but just whatever you can kind of get your hands on to make yourself feel more comfortable before you go take the test.
And then I think we just need to make sure we give Emma all the information she needs. She asked, can you touch on the Q practice discounting information from a couple slides back?
Yeah, I realized we did not insert it in there, which was a little bit of my bad. Sammy, do you know what if you signed up regular versus what you sign up for with our team, what the pricing is?
I have it somewhere. Hold please. Because it's on our website as well. And it breaks down exactly the price difference. So Q practice, comparable team plan is $420. So that's if you get a group of people together. And then a comparable individual plan, if you're buying it just for yourself, is $596. We offer this to our members at $320. So you're saving, for a team plan, you're saving $100. If you're buying an individual plan, it's more like, $275.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll share on our website where that information is as well.
That's very helpful. We had another question. Someone mentioned that getting the certification will help an interior designer earn more income. Are employers really recognizing the significance of this certification?
I would say yes. I have not switched jobs post taking my NCIDQ, but that I don't think necessarily gives me the yes or no on this, because in my position at my job, they cover our testing, and then you receive a bonus for passing all 3 of your exams, and then you also are eligible for a different title. So you could either be a senior interior designer, or you could be a project designer, which then equates to a promotion, more job responsibility, more money, etc. But of course, every place is going to be different. And that's why it's important to also educate your employer on the value of what an NCIDQ certification means. But I am with a very good company. You are right, Janet. I appreciate the support that they give into your designers here as well. And I actually do think a big part of that is because we have a senior interior designer as part of our leadership team. So the more our profession grows, the more architecture firms recognize the importance of interior design, and our clients recognize the importance of interior design, the more likely this scenario can happen for others.
Right. And I think it's super important too. It kind of helps you be a little marketable in your own way, like, oh, I have this, and this is why it's important. And I think maybe Rita or Bethany talked about a while ago, like if you get certified, it kind of transfers from state to state. I know California jurisdiction is a little different, but if you're investing in this, it's likely to continue to provide value for your career as long as you keep up with your education requirements and paying your annual dues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we at IIDA like to focus on advocacy as well, because it wouldn't expect your employer to just come and pat you on the back and here's a big old fat pay raise. It is also on you to go to your employer and say, hey, look at this great achievement that I just accomplished and how reputable I am now for you, and projects you can go after and income we can bring in to this firm and to this business. So it's kind of a two-way street. Definitely go out there and sell yourself too, and let them know you're worth it.
I would also say, Bethany, interesting point. I talked to someone who was recruiting for an NCIDQ specific interior designer because their large, it's not a corporate client, but like the large organization that was trying to hire the design firm required the interior designer to be NCIDQ certified. So I think once you're getting into these larger corporations that know a little bit more about interior design, you are getting some more interest in specifically hiring certified designers.
There's market segments out there too. I think we've come across some government projects that require certified designers. So, yeah, people are recognizing it more and more.
I think we have one more question from Emily. If you are CIDQ certified, are there annual dues associated with maintaining the certification?
Yes, and this always throws me off because if you passed in October or April, that's when your dues are due. So I always forget October is when I need to pay my dues. I believe it's $75 to annually renew.
And also
one thing
your employer if they will compensate for those annual dues as well. Or if you're trying to get a new job, maybe have them think about and consider to write that into your coverage.
And then if you're in the state of Kentucky and you would like to register with the state to be a Kentucky certified interior designer, so that's KYCID, there is a $200 annual fee to renew that title with them. So that's part of the legislation conversation that we continue to have. And if you did not know, architects do the same thing to maintain their certification. So it's a very similar process in Kentucky.
And it's more expensive for architects.
It is.
Amazing. Good questions. I think, Maria, do you want to put up the IDC approved credit?
So thank you for joining us, everyone. This has been an IDCC approved 1 hour credit. So all of the, what we were talking about, continuing education credits, this is one of them. So if you want to scan the QR code that's on here, sometimes the IDCC app is finicky and it doesn't like to app. So if you are having issues for some reason, you can see this email up here of the iidacbus.director@gmail.com. If you have issues with it, please email Hunter. And we will help you out. We'll work it. If you have any sort of other questions, comments, want to donate to our advocacy efforts, or just want to get coffee with Michelle and I, feel free to email us at idacbus.advocacy@gmail.com. We are very passionate about this and would love to chat more and connect you all with whatever resources you need. So we're going to leave this up. This QR code is good for an hour. So if your app is not doing its thing and you're having issues, I know I have issues with technology constantly. Just let us know. So thank you all so much for joining us today.
Have a great week, everybody.